Hey, what's up everybody? This is Whiskin, bringing you a game of Domination on Stadium with a group of randoms. The randoms to me at least. This game I was trying to get an X-Jaws challenge where you get the best game you can with a 3-4-8 kill streaks. Unfortunately I figured, even though I did well, it wasn't going to be up to snuff with, the kind of subscribers he has sending in videos. So I didn't send it in, kept it for myself. But again, that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to have a little Whiskin story time. So, back in 2000, I was working as a programmer with this big telemarketing company, and they had like 120 or so developers working on this internal application so that these telemarketing agents could capture answers to questionnaires, do literature fulfillment, whatever. Those 120 developers were doing the work of like 10 people. There was a lot of duplication of effort. The company always had a way of doing less with more. They were very inefficient. And what's more, we were working in a dead or dying programming language called FoxPro, which nobody's ever heard of. I've barely heard of it, and I've worked with the thing. Somewhere along the line, somebody up top decided, hey, let's rewrite this application in a more modern programming language. Now, one good reason to do this was that we could actually hire people if we did that. It was getting kind of slim pickings to find FoxPro developers. Another reason is that we had like 30 versions of this internal application. They all had their own weird hacks and customizations in it, and they wanted to build an app from scratch, to do what it was supposed to do, cover the common denominator functionality from the beginning, perform better, and hopefully be maintained by a smaller group of developers so that they could free up development staff for other projects. Now, with that in mind, they picked a programming language, Java in this case, and they formed a new team to begin work. They hired a manager, and he interviewed internally to try and fill the team. I interviewed for it and got it. I was selected. Selected. I'm super special. And then shortly after that, we changed office buildings, and when they did, they put the new team in this mid-sized team room, where we all had cubicles. And the FoxPro developers were in a larger room with the exact same cubicles. And I think they kind of resented us, but it didn't really make sense because we worked on different things. So it just kind of made sense for us to not cross lines of communication or distract each other with what we were working on. Now, the team I was working on the new product, they'd been working on it for a few months, and we're making pretty good progress. Had a few internal demos. We weren't done, but we were doing pretty good. And I was doing I think a pretty good job, and they thought so too, because they mentioned like, hey, maybe I could become a team lead, which was a promotion at the time. Not a huge one, but good for the career. And they gave us all bonuses. They gave us like $5,000 a piece. So life was going, pretty good. But anyway, if you know a software developer, if you are a software developer, you know that they like to have toys on their desk, or dolls, action figures, some of them call them, but come on, they're dolls. And when you're working on a problem, brainstorming, trying to solve something, you use a toy and you kind of just step back from the problem, you think about it in the back of your mind, do something with your hands, whatever, and it's a good way of coming up with a solution to different problems. Like everybody, I had toys on my desk. I had a lot of these little wooden metal puzzles, whatever, that I'd put together, take apart, put together, take apart while I'm thinking on something. And one day I'm at home, and my wife comes in. She's back from the mall, and she says, hey, I got your toy helicopter. You're going to love this thing. Guy in the mall made it go around in circles and everything. I'm like, oh, cool, It sat on this launcher with a drawstring. You pull the drawstring, the prop spin, it lifts up in the air. I never got it to come back to me, but whatever. It was minutes of fun for a mere $20. So I took it into work. And then one day we're working, and I got up from my desk to think about something. I don't remember what. I grab, whatever I can reach, and it happens to be the toy helicopter. So I'm walking around with the toy helicopter, and I realize, hey, on the other side of those cubicles is this friend of mine, coworker, and wouldn't it be hilarious if I had launched the toy helicopter over the cubicle wall, and it lands like on his lap, on his head, whatever. We're all going to get a great laugh out of this. And I thought it was brilliant. So I prepare for launch, and get a little too excited, and I yank on the string way too hard. And the helicopter lifts up all the way to the ceiling, it hits this acoustical tile, and starts skittering across the ceiling towards his cubicle, because at least I aimed it correctly. It was going in the right direction. And then suddenly, this black liquid starts spewing out of the ceiling. And, it hits me in the face, and I'm just standing there like, what the fuck's going on? You're not really mentally prepared for a liquid to start coming out of the ceiling. And neither was anybody else. They all wander out of their cubicles, and they're just looking like, what's going on? It took about like 20 seconds, and then we finally figured out, like, it's a sprinkler. It's a sprinkler system. And now, if you've never set off a sprinkler, and who hasn't? I mean, come on. We've all done it, right? Right? They're not wired together, typically. You set them off physically, and only one of them goes off, thankfully. So only one sprinkler's going off. It turns out this was a glass vial sprinkler where the valve is held closed by this tiny vial, and in the event of a fire, it cracks, breaks, the valve opens, water spews out, puts out the fire, and everybody's safe. You can also set them off with toy helicopters. Not a lot of people know that. I do now. It would have been good to know that before that, but anyway. Now, since the water stays in those pipes for a long period of time, they put an anti-corrosive in it, and that's why it's black. It's this oily, smelly anti-corrosive. And, yeah, it's unpleasant stuff. Now, after about a minute of this sprinkler going off, the Foxborough developers in the other room all gather right at the edge of our room and just are looking in and laughing and like, oh my god. Some of them in disbelief, but mostly just laughing. And meanwhile, I'm scrambling, trying to figure out how to turn this shit off. I find the building manager, say, hey, sprinkler's going off, and we should probably think about shutting off the water. And he starts looking around for it, but by that time the fire department had already been called or dispatched automatically. I'm not really sure which. And they got there, they turned off the sprinkler, and I'm kind of standing there in this huge pool of water in this room, and thinking like, yeah, I'm about to be fired. And my coworkers were like, yeah, you're probably gonna get fired. And one of them had the bright idea of like, hey, just don't say anything. These things can go off by accident. Nobody's gonna say anything. You're not gonna get fired. And fortunately or unfortunately, I don't really know which. I can't really do that. I kind of believe in owning up to things regardless of the consequences. I think it's good. Truth is good, and facing up to stuff is good. So I told my manager and a few other higher ups, that I'd set it off by accident. I didn't really go into detail, but I wanted to make sure I got the story out there so I wouldn't be tempted later to try and get away with it. And around that time, my phone rings. It's my wife. She's like, hey, you gonna be working late tonight? I say, I figure there's no reason to freak her out. So I'm standing there ankle deep in water, and I said, nah, I'll probably be home a little bit early, which I figured I'd be home a little bit early without a job. And by that time, one of the firemen finds a toy helicopter, and he holds it up in the air, and he's all loud, and he's like, hey, who's the chopper pilot? I said, oh, that was me. And I go to reach for it, and the CIO, Chief Information Officer for the company, runs up and says, I'll take that. And took it. So there we are, standing in this room full of water with all these shorted out laptops, monitors, ruined technical books. Cubicle walls had soaked up all this water like sponges. And I'm just standing there waiting to be fired. And so this happened on a Friday, February 2nd, 2001, on Groundhog Day, which is a great movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it to any of the younger people that might have seen it. Fantastic movie. The company brought in this crew to tear down the cubicles, steam clean them. They steam cleaned the carpets. They got all the water out. They brought in fans, dehumidifiers, trying to dry the whole place out over the weekend. Turns out the company had a $30,000 deductible, and I'd caused $28,000 worth of damage. The company also refused to pay for my friend's books. My books were ruined too, but I wasn't going to bring it up because a little bit to blame there. So I thought maybe I could eat the cost of a few $100s in technical books, but kind of sucked that he didn't get his paid for, and he really wasn't happy with me, but whatever. Turns out I did not get fired. I worked there for like another 2 years or so. They didn't ask for the bonus back, amazingly. I thought they probably would. You hand me $5,000 in January and I caused $28,000 worth of damage in February. I think the idea might come up of like, hey, remember that $5,000 we gave you? We're going to be needing that back. So I worked there for a while. Heard a lot of jokes about toy helicopters and sprinkler systems, as you might imagine. The CIO kept the toy helicopter prominently displayed in his office for about a year and a half before giving it back to me. He said, like, hey, here, you've earned this back, I guess. And to this day, whenever I go into a new job or a new office, I can't help but look up and see, what kind of sprinkler system does this place have? And I've also never bought another one of those toy helicopters for whatever reason. So that's probably for the best, given the amount of damage I can apparently do with one of those. $28,000 if you're scoring at home, and I hope you are. This one's winding down to a close. I go 46-7, which not bad. MP5K with non-lethal kill streaks, but probably not good enough for the old X-Jaws challenge. But you get to reap the benefit. You get to see the video instead. A lot of those deaths were my own stupidity, which, as we all know, your own stupidity is the most overpowered weapon in the game. Okay, and now for our little cross-promotional portion of the program. 2 videos here that I'm almost positive very few of you people have seen. The top one is a series, sort of, that I pretend that I update weekly. I only have 2 episodes of it, but kind of funny. I kind of glorify the unsung hero, the corner camper, in a top 5 corner campers of the week. And then the bottom one is a story about my brother and a massive amount of dog crap. You really don't want to listen to that. Again, as always, rate, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and have a good one. I hope to see you all in the future.